The sentence circulated quickly, almost like a whisper that turned into an echo. ChaEunwoo and his family deserve an apology from Fantagio, even though there is no final decision yet. In a matter of hours, the statement became a hot topic on online forums, media comment columns, and fan discussion rooms. No verdict. There is no official verdict. Yet there is a growing collective feeling and emotional conviction that something has shifted and that silence is no longer a sufficient answer. From the beginning, this story has never been simple. It starts from seemingly separate pieces of information. Cryptic uploads, indirect statements, public reactions that are too quick to be called coincidences. Then it merges into a grand narrative about artist and agency relationships, about trust built over the years, about families who have chosen to be behind the scenes, and about a public that demands clarity amid a fog of uncertainty. ChaEunwoo's name, a figure who has always been synonymous with a calm, polite, and professional image, is now at the center of a whirlpool of emotions that he did not create, but had to bear. Amid the uproar, one thing became clear. This conversation was not about contracts or procedures. It's about ***, a sense of justice ***, about how the public interprets the moral responsibility of an entertainment company towards its artists, and further, towards the artist's family. When an idol stands on stage, the public sees a sparkle. But behind him, there were parents, siblings, and a small circle that absorbed the pressure without a spotlight. When issues arise, they get dragged along often without a chance to defend themselves. Fantagio, as ChaEunwoo's agency, is in a tricky position. On the one hand, there is no binding final decision yet. On the other hand, the wave of public opinion demanded something more than just waiting for proceedings. This is where the phrase apology gains its weight, not as an admission of guilt over something that hasn't been decided yet, but rather as a gesture of empathy, an acknowledgement that there is real unease that the artist and her family are experiencing, and that unease is worthy of respect. This narrative developed quickly because the public felt there was an imbalance. ChaEunwoo is known as a figure who rarely overreacts. Every step is measured. Each statement is brief. So when this issue is raised and not immediately countered by soothing communication, the empty space is filled by speculation. Speculation breeds assumptions, assumptions turn into beliefs, and beliefs trigger demands. In the age of social media, pause is no longer neutral, it can be read as abandonment. What makes this situation even more sensitive is the involvement of the family in public conversations. Although not directly. Their names are called, their roles are debated, their feelings are assumed. Many fans voice the same thing, that ChaEunwoo's family shouldn't have to bear the burden of communication that they don't control. From this came the call for Fantagio to at least offer an apology, not to close the case, but to acknowledge the emotional impact that had occurred. In various discussions, one argument consistently comes to the fore. An apology does not always mean admitting a legal error. In East Asian cultures, apologies are often understood as a form of social responsibility, a way of saying, "We see you, we understand this anxiety, we will behave better." For the observing public, especially fans who have supported ChaEunwoo for many years, such gestures are seen as crucial to restoring trust. On the other hand, there are also voices that remind the public not to get ahead of the process. They emphasize the importance of caution, so that emotions do not obscure the facts. Yet even among these voices, there is a tacit acknowledgement that more human communication will help defuse the situation. Not a rigid legalistic statement, but rather a language that recognizes feelings. ChaEunwoo himself remains the center of empathy. Many highlight how he, in his silence, seemed to carry a double burden. As an artist who had to maintain professionalism, and as a child whose family is now being dragged into public space. Every photo, every gesture, every look is reread with a new lens. Does he look tired? Is he okay? The questions circulated not out of sensation, but out of concern. The uproar also reopened an old conversation about the dynamics of the entertainment industry, about the boundary between corporate interests and individual well-being. Fantagio, like many other agencies, is known for having systems and procedures. But in the eyes of the public, a system without empathy feels cold. When at stake is the dignity and tranquility of an artist's family, The public hopes for wisdom that goes beyond contractual obligations. The cry of apology itself evolved into a symbol. It represents the expectation of a change of tone, from defensive to reflective, from silence to dialogue, from formal to sincere. Many fans emphasize that they do not demand drama, nor do they want prolonged conflicts. What they want is a signal that Fantagio understands the magnitude of the impact this issue has on the people behind ChaEunwoo's big name. Interestingly, this discussion also sparked solidarity across fandom. Not a few see the case as a mirror of a broader concern. If a figure as calm as ChaEunwoo alone can be dragged into the uncertainty of communication, what about other artists who may not have as much public opinion protection as him? The question adds moral pressure on the agency, not as a defendant, but rather as a holder of social responsibility. Time is running, and every hour without a statement feels long. But it is precisely in this space that the public narrative shapes itself. Articles, opinions, and long posts sprang up, each trying to string pieces of emotion into a single conclusion. That an apology at this point is the most sensible bridge ***. Not to end the story, but to lower the tension so that the story can continue with a cool head. For ChaEunwoo's family, this highlight was certainly not an option. They don't perform on stage. They do not sign contracts with the public. And yet they feel the vibrations. Because of this, many argue that a clearly addressed apology, acknowledging the impact on the family, would be an important ethical step. He will show that Fantagio understands the difference between internal processes and external impacts. Until now, no final decision has been announced, and maybe it's not time yet, but the public has delivered their message out loud. ***. Emotional clarity is just as important as procedural clarity. In a fast-moving world, empathy is a rare currency, and therefore very valuable. At the end of this long conversation, one question hangs. Will Fantagio choose to wait until everything is finished, or take early steps to relieve the wounds that have already been felt? Whatever the choice, this moment will be remembered as the point at which the public demanded not only results but also means, manner of speaking, how to listen, responsible way. And in the midst of it all, ChaEunwoo stands as a reminder that behind every idol, there is a human being. Behind every human being, there is a family. If the industry wants to keep moving forward with public trust, maybe it's time to prove that apologies are not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of maturity. The conversation has not subsided. Quite the contrary, it develops into a large current that is difficult to contain. After the first wave of public opinion voiced that ChaEunwoo and his family deserved an apology from Fantagio, came the next, much more emotional phase. One in which the public began to weigh the meaning of silence. Shut up who, for whom, and until when? Many fans began to observe patterns. They retrace Fantagio's old statements, compare the way the agency behaved in previous cases, and then place them side by side with ChaEunwoo's current situation. From there was born an emotional conclusion that kept repeating itself on different platforms. This time it felt different. This time, it is not just the reputation of the company that is at stake, but the security of an artist and his family in the relentless spotlight. ChaEunwoo's name never escapes the image of safe. Safe for brands, safe for glass screens, safe for the public. It rarely engages in controversy, almost never provoking sharp debates. Precisely for this reason, when his name is now present in a narrative full of tension, the public feels a collective shock. Many people think that if a figure like ChaEunwoo can be dragged into prolonged discomfort due to minimal communication, then there is something that needs to be seriously evaluated. His family becomes the next center of empathy. Without a single official statement from them, the public is even more vocal in defending. There is a feeling that this family is too quiet to be in a storm of this magnitude. They did not appear in the media, did not clarify, did not defend themselves. And it is precisely from silence that sympathy arises.